Hello there, I'm every spy main ever. You might remember me from such moments as that time you got backstabbed, that other time you got backstabbed too, Electric Boogaloo, or my personal favorite, that time you fell for my disguise. Today I'll be showing you all of Spy's knives and how they can help you get a kill streak, because stabbing you in the back is just like sleeping with your mother. It takes skill. And just like sleeping with your mother, I have proof. And this video is proof! So sit back and relax as we cover all of Spy's knives and how to get a kill streak with them.
What the? Wait,
All joking aside, we will start with the stock knife, since it's the one everyone starts the game with. Dealing only 40 damage on hit, at a glance one might think the Spy has some horrible melee damage, until you realize how backstabbing works. You see, for those of you who are new to Team Fortress 2, the Spy can instantly kill anyone so long as you hit them from behind using your melee weapon. This is because the Spy's knives function differently in terms of random crits and how they operate compared to other weapons in the game. You see, with the Spy's knives, you get guaranteed critical hits from behind, and these critical hits operate differently from normal crits, doing 3 times your opponent's maximum health and damage rather than the base damage the knife would normally occur if it weren't a critical hit. Because of this, there's only 2 ways to survive a Spy's backstab: a medic's ubercharge and the sniper's razorback. And TF2's hit registration can be a bit all over the place at times, especially when it comes to melee attacks. This means attacks that you might think should have been a guaranteed backstab might end up butterknifing instead, while the inverse can also happen at times. However, there is a tactic in this game that allows you to consistently get backstabs on opponents without needing to rely on a lag spike or your opponents being completely unaware of your existence in the first place. This technique is known as trick stabbing. Trick stabbing is when you carefully maneuver around your opponents, baiting them into a situation where you can get a good backstab on them despite the fact that they know you're a spy. This can be as simple as baiting your opponents into moving a certain direction only to sidestep them and get a nice juicy backstab from behind, or trying to jump across stairs in order to backstab someone below you. However, much like the art of rocket jumping, this is not a technique that I am truly a master of whatsoever, and recommend simply looking up other guides on YouTube in order to hone your skills at. Suffice to say, when trying to get backstabs as Spy in Team Fortress 2, learning to trick stab makes things a lot easier. I recommend going to community servers to practice when you're first starting out, since while your rate of failure won't change very much compared to going on pubs, the time you waste waiting to respawn from your failures is another matter entirely. When it comes to using the stock knife, however, the most noteworthy thing about it is, unlike most of Spy's other knives, it doesn't punish you for not getting backstabs consistently, meaning if you're new to the game and just don't have a way to consistently get backstabs because you're new to the game and can't reliably do that, you're not going to be shooting yourself in the foot with this knife, making this a great weapon for any new player who's just trying to get the ropes of playing Spy. Speaking of new players, if you're having trouble with pyros as you're trying to learn Spy, this next knife might be up your alley. The Spycicle was added back in the Australian Christmas update and can be crafted by fusing a reclaimed metal and a Your Eternal Reward in the crafting menu. As for what this weapon does, when you're hit by fire damage whatsoever, you gain an immunity to fire and afterburn for 1 and 10 seconds respectively, with the downside being that your knife melts and you'll have to wait 15 seconds for this thing to recharge. During these 15 seconds, you'll be incapable of using your knife whatsoever since, well, it kinda melted from the fire. I recommend a Spycicle for anyone who intends to be getting kills with their gun rather than their knife as Spy, since a single stray flame particle from a clueless pyro can easily cost you your knife and therefore your backstab. You see, when you're playing Spy, you should realistically have some sort of escape plan for after you get the kill on your opponents. And realistically, you should avoid getting set on fire in the first place, rather than using a contingency plan such as a Spycicle if you're serious about getting a kill streak with your knife. And while you can use ammo packs, such as the ones opponents drop on death, to recharge your knife faster after it melts, you're better off just using health packs from across the map in order to turn off the fire instead. This is because if you have any realistic chance of reliably getting a kill streak with this weapon, you should not be getting set on fire in the first place. Think of the Spycicle like a pair of training wheels. It's a great tool for those of you who are struggling at dealing with pyro mains who hard focus you. It's not so great if you're trying to actually go for backstabs constantly on a server where enemy pyros are somewhat competent. The Spycicle is also one of the worst knives in the game when dealing with coordinated teams, since the players you backstab with this weapon turn into ice sculptures, meaning their teammates who see the corpse will know exactly what killed them, unlike regular corpses you get from backstabs, which can honestly be created by getting killed by any weapon in the game. However, realistically, if you're having issues with bodies being left behind giving away your location, you're going to want to consider the next weapon we have on this list. The Your Eternal Reward is probably the most infamous knife the Spy has in his arsenal. This is because it was part of the Saharan Spy item set, which is one of the most infamous item sets in TF2's history. This is because wearing the item set in question would give you a mechanical buff, and 2, the item set in question required you to wear the fez. And while it is technically possible to get the fez from a random drop, I have been playing this game since 2012 and have only received 3 hat drops in all the time I've been playing, none of which were the fez. I'll go into greater detail into what made this item set so infamous in its heyday when I cover the Eleshwan J, so subscribe if you don't want to miss that. As for what this weapon does, when you backstab someone, you are instantly disguised as the dude you just killed, meaning this can be great for dealing with sentries and playing mind games with the enemy team. Especially when you realize that all players killed with this weapon leave no body behind, even if you killed them through butter knifing rather than a traditional backstab. The downsides attached to this weapon, however, are 1, your cloak drains significantly faster, and 2, trying to disguise yourself through the traditional method requires you to have a completely filled cloak meter, which will be expended when you disguise yourself. If you're using the Dead Ringer with this knife, I recommend disguising yourself as one of your teammates during setup so players looking into spawn won't realize your team has a spy in the first place. After all, the Dead Ringer won't trigger as many alarm bells in the opponent's head if you're disguised as not a spy in the same color as the team they're shooting at. However, when the Your Eternal Reward is equipped, you do lose all of your cloak meter every time you put on a disguise unless you got the disguise from backstabbing someone. And the Dead Ringer can only be activated whatsoever if you have a full cloak meter, unlike your other watches, meaning you're better off using your other watches as a plan B for when your disguise fails rather than trying to use the Dead Ringer to get around. Don't get me wrong, the Dead Ringer and Your Eternal Reward can still be useful. However, in my opinion, your other watches just have much stronger synergy with the Eternal Reward these days. Overall, the Your Eternal Reward is a great weapon for those of you who are having trouble sapping buildings after stabbing an engineer, or love going for chain stabs silently before anyone has a chance to turn around and realize what's happening to them until it's too late. However, if you're like me and prefer to switch up your disguises while fully cloaked between kills to throw off your opposition, this isn't the weapon for you. The Your Eternal Reward is much like the Widowmaker. It plays to its own rules and won't be shy about reminding you what those are. This is a knife for players going up against uncoordinated teams and casual looking to pub stomp. This is not something you want to use in any kind of competitive sense. If you're the sort of player who can consistently get that first backstab off but struggles to stay alive immediately after, this is not the weapon for you. That honor goes to the next knife we're covering. The Kunai is the perfect knife for spy players who can consistently get that first backstab off but struggle to stay alive immediately afterward. This is because the knife heals you based on the current HP of whoever you're killing via backstab, giving any excess over as overheal. This potential overhealing you can give yourself can result in you getting 375 HP at some points in the game. For some reference, the Heavy's max HP by default is 300. However, since you're almost certain to take some kind of damage in retaliation for getting a backstab off on someone, combined with the fact that any health gained from overhealing will slowly fade away over time, and you'll quickly realize that you're not going to be holding ungodly amounts of health most of the time. In fact, if you're not getting backstabs consistently, you'll have next to no health whatsoever. This is because the downside of the Kunai is that it reduces your maximum HP to 70, which is so low that a stiff breeze could probably kill you. Hell, a stock melee attack does 65 damage in one clean swing. However, with the overhealing potential I mentioned earlier, as long as you can get those first few backstabs off, you basically become a near impossible to kill god, only capable of dying to another spy backstabbing you. This makes it a very popular weapon for individuals who are trying to make a frag movie on YouTube. This, of course, results in a sea of new players picking up this weapon with no functional understanding of how it works or what made the player able to get those chain stabs off in the first place, only to die horribly over and over again as they just try to bum rush the enemy head on thinking they're some sort of chain stabbing god cause I watched a YouTuber do it one time. When using this weapon, remember that the health you recover from the Kunai's backstabs is based on the current health of your opponent, meaning a Heavy at 30 health is only going to heal you 30 health, not his maximum 300. So if you're looking to top off your health bar whatsoever with this weapon, be mindful of the enemy's health total. Because with this knife, you're going to heal more from backstabbing that sniper at full health than dealing with the medic who's in the red. The kunai is a weapon that requires you to go in with a plan well in advance before you leave spawn, so if you've never played the map before, I recommend switching to a different knife and scouting the place out with a cloak and dagger before trying to do shenanigans with the kunai. Many players will use this weapon alongside the dead ringer as a way to help bypass its biggest drawback, the fact that you can be one-shot by just about everything. In fact, this combo is so common that there's actually a bit of a negative stereotype of it. So if you don't want to be treated the same way as the lime-painted scouts on High Tower or those anger-wearing snipers on 2 Fort, yeah, you're gonna want to not use this combo. However, if you just don't care what others think about you whatsoever, go ahead and use this combo. However, just because the kunai and dead ringer make an excellent combo doesn't mean your other watches can't work alongside it either. The cloak and dagger especially is good with the kunai simply because it allows you to stay invisible indefinitely, meaning as long as you have the patience to do so, you can inch along across the map until you find the perfect opportunity to strike. Overall, the kunai is an excellent weapon for those of you who enjoy a high-risk, high-reward playstyle. However, if you'd prefer a temporary speed boost instead of a temporary health boost on kill instead, you'll prefer this last weapon we're going to be covering today. The Big Earner is a great option for players who wish to be able to get a chain stab but struggle to get in position after that first stab. This is because you get a speed boost and 30% of your maximum cloak back every time you get a backstab on someone with this knife. The downside of this weapon is the fact that your maximum health is reduced to 100. This means a direct hit from a demo man's grenade launcher or a soldier's rocket launcher will one-shot you, making this the perfect knife for spies who want to go on a chain stab but find the kunai's health boosting properties to be little more than an elaborate way to needlessly prolong your death. The Big Earner, in my opinion, is the most fun of all of Spy's knives. This is because the speed boost allows you to get chain stabs far more easily since you can quickly close the gap between one target and the next, allowing you to get your dopamine rushes much quicker and more easily than with the other knives. And since you recover a good chunk of your cloak every time you get a backstab, you will always have the option of just cloaking away should you not be able to follow up on your next backstab whatsoever for some reason. This makes the Big Earner the best knife, in my opinion, for those of you who are experienced with Spy and want to go on a kill streak. This is because not only does it give you a tool to follow up on your backstabs into a glorious chain stab more easily, but it also provides an escape route in the form of not only a speed boost, but more cloak to disappear with. The Big Earner is much like the candy cane. It's a great weapon that can be viable if you use it correctly. However, you can be one-shot by demo men and soldiers very easily when you have it equipped, so you might want to think twice about using it in some games. All in all, I give the Spy's knives a perfectly balanced out of 10. They all have a nice place in the game, and while some are better than others for the goal of getting a kill streak, there is more to this game than getting a high KD ratio, and this is reflected in the knives' versatility. That's all for now though. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you don't want to miss the next one, comment what weapons you want to see me cover in the future. I've been an Ian, you have been you, and this has been my TF2 How to Kill Streak Guide to the Spy's Knives, and stay tuned, the Flying Guillotine is coming up next.